Good morning, everyone. A video that you've been requesting a lot over the last week or so is you want me to comment on why Rangchu was able to beat Qudans at the Tekken World Tour Finals and take the title of that tournament. Now, it's not typically the kind of content that I specialize in, sort of match commentary and analysis, but I think it was obvious enough what happened in that match that I can definitely give my opinion on it. But what really made me interested in the topic is the comments that you guys were leaving on my videos requesting that I talk about it, because there were a lot of comments like, "Our tier lists completely invalidated now that what is perceived to be a quite low tier character beat what is considered by a lot of people to be the best character in the game." And that's an interesting topic to talk about for me. So I want to talk a little bit about these characters, and then I'm going to carry that into my opinion of what happened in the match and why Rangchu was able to win. If we're going to start with Panda, or the bear characters, the first thing I should say is that even though they're considered really quite poor by a lot of people, my opinion of them has been steadily increasing or improving since the initial release of the game. And if you look at my tier list videos going back, they've gone from being low tier to a little bit higher. I think they're kind of low to lower mid. Not necessarily as bad as they're sometimes made out to be. One thing that gets brought up when you speak about these characters is the fact that they have that large, wide hitbox and are slightly limited in their ability to move, you know, around the map or around the stage. And that is not as big of a disadvantage as some people think. And I think a good example of that is at least pre-nerf, Jack 7 was such a good character in this game, as specifically in high-profile tournaments. Despite the fact that he has that big hitbox problem as well. If you have a character design and a move pool that allows you to strategize around the fact that you are a large character in, you know, an interesting way, and you still have a good offensive package, then I think that can be an almost negligible disadvantage to a character. And it is definitely the case that it sometimes even is an advantage to specifically Kuma and Panda, because their hitbox is so weird that even though some combos will connect for more damage on them, some combos simply won't connect at all. I also think that when you're looking at the relative strength of a character, what I usually look for is, do they have a reliable way of continually accessing, you know, powerful mix-ups? Are they able to, if they're playing against a very good player who can, you know, react to fast moves, who knows when to duck, can you still keep up? And I think the bears definitely can. They have the hunting bear stance, which is a legit mix-up stance. It works, and they can access that off of a couple of seriously powerful moves. The back one, power crush, the running 1+2, which gives you plus frames, the down back 2, very long range low poke, just to name a few. So I think the characters are completely legit, even though they definitely are, you know, lower tier characters than Devil Jin. And then if we're going to speak a little bit about Devil Jin, I've made videos talking about him before, where I've mentioned that I think he actually has a problematic character design. I'm not a huge fan of this character and the way he's made, and first of all, I can't stand the way he looks. I think it's very derivative and boring, but that's completely by the by. If you love Devil Jin and you think he's, you know, hot shit and whatever, that's fine, you know, more power to you. It's not what the video is about. But the reason I don't necessarily like the way he's designed gameplay-wise is I don't think it's a very balanced design. And I don't mean it's not balanced in terms of the tier list, like he's, you know, broken good or anything, even though you could make the argument that he is. I won't, at least not in this video. But what I mean when I say that I don't think it's a balanced design is that you have this one extremely powerful move, unreasonably powerful move that creates the nexus of the character, and then everything else kind of ends up revolving or depending on that move. And I'm talking about his health sweep, the reliable, unseeable, long-range, low launcher. And there are other content creators who speak about Tekken, who've made videos speaking specifically about this move, and some of them, you know, talk about how they think it's quite reasonable in its design, and they've made some pretty good arguments. So you can have different opinions about this, that I can definitely see the argument for. But my opinion is that Devil Jin's Hell Sweep is so good that the reason his mids are connecting a lot of the time is the fact that he has the Hell Sweep. The fact that he has the Hell Sweep and that needs to be sidestep left, it means that you are going to repeatedly sidestep him in a very specific and predictable direction, which you can capitalize on if you are Devil Jin. You can chase them with, you know, Laser Scraper and so on. I think that move is so important for him that even though he has a lot of great stuff, I mean, you know, Flash Punch combo, Electric Wind God Fist, for Christ's sakes, is up for Laser Scraper and so on. The Hell Sweep creates this imbalance where it's going to become the nexus of your strategy most of the time. And so if we're going to carry that into my discussion of what happened in the match between these two players, it's really quite simple. Rangchu was blocking an unreasonable amount of Hell Sweeps around the middle of the set. It's been a while since I watched it right now, but I remember thinking that he is blocking that Hell Sweep too much for it to be like normal. And what I mean here is that the Hell Sweep is an unseeable low, so you have to think about it in the same category as like a fast low poke. You can never react to it. You have to predict it with a hard read at the right time and connect with it, and you're being mixed up when this happens most of the time. The thing about Devil Jin's Hell Sweep is, unlike something like Demolition Man from Paul needs to be very close to you to get the clean hit to make the Demolition Man work. But the Hell Sweep from Devil Jin comes out of a crouch dash, meaning that he can close the gap to his opponent and then apply it, even though it has had the hitbox modified in Season 2, and I've heard some Devil Jin users say that that's by a negligible amount. Others saying that, you know, it's made them move a lot weaker. I'll leave that to the Devil Jin experts, but it's definitely a gap closing move that can work in terms of a knockdown low. And so by just standing on the stage across from Devil Jin, you're being sort of mixed up by default, which is extremely stressful. And if you're able to predict exactly when the Hell Sweep is going to come out and block it and launch, that's going to happen sometimes when you play against Devil Jin, because the move is likely to come out and you're going to have to try and read it when it happens. But it shouldn't happen that often. If it happens, put it this way. Devil Jin is considered by a lot of people to be the best character in the game, despite the fact that a lot of the time when he applies his most powerful move, he is at a reasonable risk of getting launched, and he's still considered that good, and that is because that is not going to happen all that often. The success ratio of a Hell Sweep when it gets applied, especially by, you know, probably the best Devil Jin user in the world, is extremely high, and so the risk-reward ratio of the Hell Sweep is still completely in the favor of the Devil Jin player, unless he's playing somebody who can confidently block him and hard read him several times in a row. That is extremely impressive, and it's such good Tekken by Rangchu. It's extremely good high-level stuff. And so my short answer to why Rangchu was able to win is that he played extremely good Tekken, and he hard read several Hell Sweeps in a row. And then you can see when that happens around the middle of the set, when you get to the last games, that Qudans seems to be stiffening up because his most important, you know, move is being nullified, and he has to be stressed and worried about the fact that if I do this move that I really want to do with this character, I might lose the round here and get launched because he's been blocking it so much. And so, you know, he's crouch dashing, but he doesn't really know what to do, and then he's on a stage in one of the most high profile matches of his life against a mean character, and he's losing. And so I think that compounds the stressfulness of that situation, and it made him stiffen up. And then Rangchu operates on that momentum and closes the game out. But a very interesting thing to note here is that Rangchu could have done that with any character in the game. It doesn't really matter that much that he's playing specifically Panda, because any character in the game who blocks a Hell Sweep can launch it from while standing. Maybe some of them would crouch cancel before doing some other kind of launcher, but it's a stagger low, meaning that no matter what character you play, if you block that Hell Sweep after a hard read, you're going to combo. And so you shouldn't probably get hung up on the fact that he's doing it with specifically Panda, because the most important thing that gave him the win is something that he could do with any character because of how well he played. And it's great. It's a very satisfying result as a fan of competitive Tekken, that somebody who's able to do something that impressive is allowed to win. I think he earned it, let's say, in a big way. And I think it's fantastic. And the last thing I want to talk about are these questions about whether or not tier lists are now invalidated by the fact that, you know, this low tier character beat this high tier character. And I think that betrays a little bit of a misunderstanding maybe of what a tier list is and how it should be used. When you're looking at a tier list, especially in Tekken, it's not you know, a universal truth that you should base decisions on in the real world, let's say, because Tekken is a very normalized game. All characters have 10-frame moves. Most characters get their first launcher at 15 frames, and then some get it at 14 and some get it at 16, and you tweak it in, you know, some interesting ways to make your character choice significant. But it's normalized to the point where the game is very balanced. So any character can beat any character in any environment. And the tier list is an indication that this character is going to have a slight advantage over the characters that is below him or her in the tier list. But I mean, if you're just looking at random chance, that means that he's slightly more likely to win. Definitely doesn't mean that he has to. And so that's the way to think about it. And so when you're using a tier list to think about what character you might want to pick up, you have to leverage the position in the tier list of the character against how interested you are in playing that character, how much time you're willing to spend on it, you know, and so on. The value of the character to you and so on. So tier lists are definitely have a place, but a precarious place in the discussion about a game like Tekken, and I think they're very interesting to discuss and talk about because they allow us access to all these different interesting topics about the game. But it is not surprising to me that a panda is able to beat a Devil Jin, not even in a high-profile tournament match like this. But if you look at the representation of panda in huge tournaments like this, you'll find that, well, first of all, just across the entire world, it's not a popular character that a lot of people use because people maybe don't want to be a panda. It feels memey. The character has a little bit of a bad reputation. You might get made fun of. It doesn't have, you know, a sexy image the way a character like Brian or a Mishima has, you know, a very sexy image, and people think that those characters are super dope and it's cool to be a Mishima player or a main or whatever. So that just makes the likelihood of Panda winning a huge tournament smaller. And then if you are, you know, one of these super good professional players and you maybe even play Tekken for a living, you're more likely to want to go to a tournament with a character that has those slight advantages because, I mean, a bad analogy, if you're a race car driver, are you going to bring a slightly slower car to the race and be confident in your ability to drive so much better that you win anyway? Might make sense to you and me when we're playing for fun in our bedrooms, but if you are playing for a living, there's a pressure on you to perform, and so you're more likely to play, I think, a character who has inherent advantages in the design, especially something like a Mishima that exponentially gets better when the player using the character has extremely high level execution, as these guys do. Then it just starts making even more sense to go for a character choice like that. So I think the fact that Panda won the tournament is kind of arbitrary. I'm very impressed with Rangchu and the way he played Tekken. And if there were, you know, 10 super high level out of the top 50 tournament pros in the world, if say 5 of them or 6 or 7 of them were Panda mains, then you would see a lot more representation and a lot more outcome like this. And it doesn't have that much to do with the tier list, relative tier list position of the character in the end, I think. I'm sorry I'm rambling a little bit at this point, but I think it's a very interesting topic and I had a lot to say about it. If we're going to wrap this up, I'm making a lot of fun stuff. I'm writing a lot for videos I want to make on Tekken right now. My creative juices are kind of flowing this month. I've been shown amazing support and love from all of you, especially since the release of Season 2. So I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I'm thinking of doing something a little bit special, probably no spectacle, but something for Christmas or the New Year, just as a token of my gratitude to all of you guys. So if you have any suggestions or what you would like to see me do, then definitely let me know. But for now, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm sorry I didn't break down the match frame by frame, but like I said, I think it was pretty straightforward, and I hope it made sense to you. Thank you so much for watching this, and I will see you guys in the next video, which I hope will come out sooner rather than later. Thank you so very much, and bye bye for now.